Zelensky doesn't want to surrender. But then Zelensky isn't fighting at the front. It's regular people who are losing their loved ones in a pointless war. Now, common Ukrainians have begun supporting Russia over Ukraine. And this twist may mark the beginning of the end of the neo-Nazi regime in Ukraine.
We will tell you all about it. Before that, if you're a fan of non-corporate monetary news and analysis, you've landed on the right YouTube channel. Okay, let's begin.
Russia's focus on striking Ukrainian energy facilities has renewed. The volume and accuracy of recent attacks have alarmed Ukrainian authorities, who say Kremlin forces have now better intelligence and fresh tactics in their campaign to annihilate Ukraine's electrical grid and bring its economy to a halt. Moscow has also apparently learned how to exploit gaps in Ukrainian air defenses. But that's not all. Ukrainian energy sector employees are now openly protesting against Zelensky, and Russian intelligence is hacking deep into Ukraine's power grid. Amid these tensions, Zelensky's administration has been vocal about the threat of Russian-backed protests, claiming since mid-November that such demonstrations are not genuine grassroots movements but rather orchestrated attempts to destabilize his government. This perception has led to a heightened state of alert within Ukraine's Security Service, SBU, tasked with quelling dissent amplified by controversial policies like conscription. However, this focus may have inadvertently overlooked Russian espionage activities within Ukraine's energy sector. The sophistication of recent attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure underscores the extent of intelligence operations conducted by Russian operatives. The Associated Press cited Alexander Kachenko, director of the Kiev-based Energy Industry Research Center, acknowledging the precision of these strikes. Kachenko highlighted that these attackers possessed detailed knowledge of the energy sector's defenses and vulnerabilities, suggesting a comprehensive intelligence effort that allowed for such targeted disruption. Furthermore, the infiltration involved technicians with highly specialized skills, complicating any efforts to replace them swiftly in the wake of potential security purges. This aspect reveals the layered complexity of the espionage, indicating not just a breach of physical defenses but also a deep penetration into the technical expertise that underpins Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The sudden decision by certain Ukrainian energy sector employees to collaborate with Russia in optimizing attacks on their national energy grid has raised questions about their motivations. A plausible explanation is their desire to expedite an end to the ongoing conflict, urging President Zelensky to reinitiate peace talks. This group, having abstained from engaging with Russian intelligence for over 2 years, appears to have acted out of a sense of urgency, driven by the prolonged state of war and its devastating effects on Ukraine. The weariness among Ukrainians towards the drawn-out conflict is palpable, especially following the unsuccessful counteroffensive last summer. The toll of the war, marked by territorial losses and the human cost seen in casualties and injuries, has deeply affected the population. Many have first-hand experience with the consequence of the war, including the loss of loved ones. This collective fatigue and grief have fostered a desperation for an end to the hostilities, despite the complex political and territorial stakes involved. The prevailing sentiment is not about the possibility of Ukraine's defeat, but the extent of territorial and human loss it will sustain before the conflict concludes, likely on terms increasingly favorable to Russia. With each day the war persists, the likelihood of Russia dictating the endgame terms grows. Faced with the dire predictions of Russian military breakthrough, Zelensky is positioned between initiating peace negotiations or continuing the conflict in the hope of a Ukrainian victory, risking further losses. For the energy sector employees collaborating with Russia, their rationale seems rooted in a pragmatic, albeit desperate calculation. They believe that by facilitating more effective strikes on Ukraine's energy grid, they can pressure Zelensky towards peace talks, thus averting further military escalations and loss of life. Their actions, far from being motivated by financial gain, a path they could have chosen early on, reflect a profound desperation for peace and resolution to a conflict that has exacted a heavy toll on the country and its people. While Ukraine loses the trust of its people, NATO still believes that it has put its money on the winning horse. But does it? There must be an explanation to the 100 billion euros grant package NATO just finalized. This report will explain the rationale.